I made a whole plate of pancakes just for that stupid fucking bit. It's fine. It's fine. Edgedancer. I will start off with a brief review for those who aren't familiar with our good friend Lyft, and then I'll switch to spoiler territory for those of us who want to get into the real good stuff. That's really dumb. I think I should get some syrup. So I was looking on the internet, and it turned out all you Brandon Sanderson fans are quite divided on a certain character, a character we met in Words of Radiance, a character called Lyft. For those of you who don't know what Words of Radiance is or what the fuck I'm talking about, this may not be the video for you because you probably don't want to be reading Edgedancer unless you are caught up with at least Words of Radiance in Brandon Sanderson's epic Stormlight archive. Let's face it, the actual... Ooh, I'm afraid to touch the book now because my hands are sticky. In the book, the actual first 20% of the book is just a chapter from Words of Radiance, one of the interlude chapters. Some people were probably annoyed because it's like, well, I just paid, for this whole thing, which is, it's small, it's like 200 something pages. And 20% of it is a chapter from a book I've already read. I actually enjoyed this book a lot. But first things first, I want to do a little bit of an analysis of our friend Lyft and why I think she's such an iconic character, why I think she is one of the best characters in the whole series. A chaotic, weird-ass child. I can appreciate that. I was fairly weird in my time. If you're coming into this book, you're already going to know this information. Lyft is part of the Knights Radiant. She doesn't really understand it yet. She has a spren who she calls a Voidbringer, and she just keeps calling him that. I think she knows that he's not a Voidbringer, but she just likes messing with him. She likes giving him a hard time. I don't know how old she is. In my mind, she's like 12, but she could be older. She loves to be on the road. She loves to run around. We meet her in Words of Radiance, and in the prologue of this book, she is robbing a castle, some palace. She's robbing a palace using her powers, and her powers, which I think I displayed quite eloquently in the brief introduction to this video, she becomes awesome, as she puts it. She says, I'm ready to become awesome. Her power is basically, she eats a lot of fucking pancakes, and then she becomes like a buttery fish. She becomes slippery, so she can evade people. She can slide on the ground and just go all slippery. That's the extent of her power, which is admittedly a tiny bit lame, but it's also very cool when you think about it. And when Sanderson uses it to advance the story, she can do a lot with that slipperiness and steal and rob and get out of sticky situations, pun intended. I understand why people think she's annoying because she is a simple soul. She likes to consume food because that gives her power. So she goes to this city because she wants to get some pancakes, which, even though a person who's trying to kill her is in this city, she goes there because she wants to try these pancakes that this city is famous for, I guess. What is so great about Lyft's character, I think, and I haven't finished Oathbringer yet, I'm working on it, Sanderson hasn't given her the whole flashback treatment. In Way of Kings, he gave Kaladin the flashback treatment. In Words of Radiance, did the same with Shallan, and in Oathbringer he was doing it with Dalinar. I think there are good things with the flashback stuff. We learn a lot about the characters, but also there is sometimes too much information, and having a bit of mystery is nice. Lyft has kind of a mysterious past, so it's at this point I'm just going to go into spoiler territory. It's implied that Lyft's past is really difficult and rough, and that she's really pushing back a lot of her emotions. I think she has some kind of, I think she lost her mom at an early age. I believe she tried to use the old magic to stay young forever, even though it's not necessarily working because she is getting taller. So this kind of background is peppered throughout the story very lightly, and that may be why people don't really like Lyft that much. She seems like a very one-note character in a lot of ways. She just don't give a shit about nothing. And that changes. Unlike in Words of Radiance, she now has a full story in order to develop her character. I thought that it was done very well. She is a character like Dalinar, like Kaladin, like Shallan, that have these deep, difficult pasts, and they're using different ways to cope with them. Kaladin wants to save everybody. Shallan creates lies for herself and for others in order to deal with her past. Lyft, she constantly is in motion, and there are some really, poignant moments in the story where Lyft understands this and says to herself, not moving is death, because then people can't attach themselves to you, because then people can't expect anything from you. She just wants to be on the road and keep moving. And what's great about the story is that her becoming a Knights Radiant means that she is going to have to grow beyond that. I'm so glad I made this many pancakes. For those of you interested in what I thought about the actual novella, the actual book, Lyft is perfect. I have nothing really to say that's wrong with Lyft. There's kind of a wish fulfillment with a lot of people just being like a slippery goofball eating pancakes all day. That sounds pretty nice. However, the book has some issues. I think some of that can just be attributed to Lyft being a young person. I thought the prose was a bit choppy. I was wondering if it was just Sanderson, if I was just reading other stuff with fancier prose, and I was just kind of like, this is a bit choppy. But then I started reading Oathbringer, and I was like, whoa, compared to Edgedancer, Oathbringer's like really gorgeous prose. And I was like, not really what Sanderson's known for, but I was really impressed with Oathbringer's writing style. And I think that's because Edgedancer was written, it's from Lyft's perspective, the whole book, except for one chapter. She's a kid. She has kind of a childlike perspective of the world. I thought the city, Yazir, I kind of forget what it's called, but the city that she goes to, I thought was kind of not very, I guess it was memorable, but I didn't find it that interesting. It's sort of like the chasms, except as a city, and there's like buildings within all the chasms. At least that was the impression I got of the city. I wasn't crazy about it. Also, Lyft's motivation is admittedly weak throughout most of the book. She goes to the city for kind of vague reasons. She wants pancakes. There's a guy hunting her there. She ends up wanting to save the person that, I think his name was Darkness. The person trying to kill her, she's trying to save his next victim. So that involves going to a library and doing research, which Sanderson makes it funny and goofy, but it's still a bit dull in some ways. It really didn't get super interesting until like the 2/3 mark, where she meets that fucking crab guy. What the fuck? The crab... I don't understand. I was so confused. He seems like some kind of ancient god or terrifying creature, but this old man that she meets by the orphanage turns out to be some kind of like mythic creature who like controls crabs, and his body is made of crabs. What the hell? That was like a weird body horror like scene in this book. It was like genuinely frightening. And then the person who I believe is like an honor radiant who's been hunting her, she ends up convincing him to be good because the Everstorm comes in and he sees all the Voidbringers and he's trying to avoid that situation, but he just can't help it now. And so he kind of gets off Lyft's back, and it's a really good ending. Things are really wrapped up and made me really want to read Oathbringer, which is how it should be. I will say reading this book was a bit of a chore because you open up Oathbringer and you have this massive book in your hands. You open it up and you read. I like to read the acknowledgments a little bit, and it says, you may want to read a novella that in between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. I have to read more just to read. Okay. All right. So I kind of went into it as feels like kind of a chore. I came out of it as, it was a positive experience. Essential? I don't really think so, except for Lyft, just being hilarious and having some character development. Fantastic all around. I really enjoyed it. I really did. Oh, my notes just says page 189. Say it, Lyft said. Your pancakefulness. I just love Lyft. Say it. Lyft has all this power all of a sudden, and this ardent is going, your pancakefulness. Iconic. There were moments in this that made me really smile. I enjoyed it. Well, I might just stay here and eat the rest of this on camera. So what did you all think of Edgedancer? Have you read it? All right, do you want to read it? What do you think of Lyft? Annoying? Cringe? Huh? Or fucking amazing, which she is, okay? If you're new to this channel, like and subscribe. It helps a lot. I really have nothing else to say. So, bye.